Formulate a good research question. It's important to use PICOT-PECOT format to help formulate it. And the research question will define your study design, measurement, and population, so great care must be taken to choose it carefully. If you have a good research question, just from reading it, someone unfamiliar with your project should be able to answer, what is the unit of observation in this study? For example, is it an individual tooth or the whole mouth? What study design is likely to help to answer this question? What kind of analysis can be done? And you should also get an idea of what the results would look like, not in the content, but in the form, just from reading your research question. Here's a quote from Nancy Mayo, a researcher at McGill, saying that the gap between research and clinical practice could be bridged by a clear, complete, and informative research question. Now, formulate a testable hypothesis. A hypothesis is simply the statement of what expected associations you have between an exposure and an outcome. Scientific statements are those which can be verified with reference to empirical evidence. Non-scientific statements cannot be empirically tested, and hypotheses should link to existing literature and theory. And they should also give an idea of where this hypothesis fits in with the overall research question. Basic study designs in epidemiology. So, descriptive studies are those that describe the occurrence of events. No associations are sought. And some examples of descriptive studies include prevalence surveys, case series, descriptive analyses of routinely collected data, and descriptive analysis of surveillance data. Now, analytical studies are used to study causal associations, and there are two main types, based on whether the researcher decides who is exposed to an intervention. If the researcher decides who is exposed to an intervention, then these are interventional studies, the leading one of which is randomized controlled trials, but other forms of interventional studies which are sometimes done are quasi-experimental trials, such as non-randomized trials, quasi-randomized trials, or uncontrolled trials, which are sometimes done for practical or ethical considerations. And these interventional studies help establish causation. If the researcher does not decide who is exposed to an intervention, then observational studies can be done. Examples of these are cohort case control, hybrid designs such as nested case control studies, and cross-sectional and ecological studies. With observational studies, one can only study associations. It is very difficult to establish causation. Here, I would like to answer another survey question. What quantitative study design have you used or are you interested in using in your project?